So Derek Carr was benched the other day by the Las Vegas Raiders and by Josh McDaniels. And I can see that there's a lot of sides to this argument. There's the crowd that doesn't think Derek Carr is really not great, and there's an argument for it. There's a crowd that thinks Derek Carr is a really good quarterback. There are lots of arguments for it. There are a lot of people that agree with what the Las Vegas Raiders did in benching Derek Carr at this time with 2 games left for Jarrett Stidham, a guy that they know from the system in New England, a guy that Josh McDaniels is used to. But let's call a spade a spade. They did not bench Derek Carr because they wanted to evaluate Jarrett Stidham. Nobody in their right fucking mind thinks that Jarrett Stidham has a chance to be a quarterback and an actual viable option in the NFL. The reason Derek Carr was benched was because the injury guarantees in his contract. If Derek Carr was to go out and get injured in the next 2 games, the Raiders have until 3 days after the Super Bowl, February 15th, to release Derek Carr, or he will be guaranteed $40 million in an injury agreement in his contract. And if they were to keep him, or if any team were to trade for Derek Carr, you're taking on a contract with guarantees of $32, $37, and $41 million over the next 3 years. So this video today is me going through what I think the top 3 destinations for Derek Carr would, should, and could be coming up when he is released, because I am acting as if trading is something we're going to throw out the window. Why would Derek Carr help out Josh McDaniels and the Las Vegas Raiders after benching a guy who's been nothing but a vocal leader for the team and he's been under helm, he's been under center for 9 years, and he's one of the well-liked quarterbacks in the league. He's very emotional. He's the prototypical rah-rah guy. He's a man of faith. He's a guy, like Russell Wilson, but not as corny. He's a guy that wears his heart and emotions on his sleeve. He's a very likable guy, and he's been a very consistent but inconsistent leader of the Raiders during his 9-year tenure as a Las Vegas Raiders starting quarterback. But why would he do anything to help them? He's pissed right now. Not only is he benched, he's away from the team. Did you see Davante Adams' interview in the locker room the other day when they asked him? He said, I came here specifically to play with Derek Carr. If Derek Carr was not on the roster, I would not be here right now. He looks pissed. He looks like, what the fuck did I sign up for? Just imagine, you and your boy, y'all plan a vacation to go somewhere. Matter of fact, no. Y'all both get jobs in the same city. Y'all are going to take over the city together, and then you get to the city and your boy's not there anymore. Like, come on, just think about that. Like, it's a really fucked up situation to be Davante Adams right now. But when you look at the team side of things, they can say, Derek Carr, last year you put up almost 5,000 yards. You played better football with a less talented team. Derek Carr's argument is probably going to be, because I had to. I had to do more. I had to lift a bad team to the playoffs last year, and in a year with an interim head coach. And this year you get Davante Adams, who was the best receiver in the NFL. Going into the season now, I put him 2 or 3 because Justin Jefferson is absolutely taking over the world. He's on another planet right now. But back to the topic of the video. Derek Carr. I think he's going to be released because trading just doesn't seem like an option for the reasons of Derek Carr's not going to do them any favors. The guarantees, the $32, $37, and $41 million in his contract. And number 3, are people in the NFL really going to line up to do business with Josh McDaniels, the same guy who blue-balled the Indianapolis Colts 4 or 5 years ago when he accepted the job and then unaccepted the job and left them on red, and they had to start their whole coaching search over again and pretty much pick the next guy like, hey, big head, you still interested in this job? Because the other guy fell out, Like when you're expecting a girl to come over and she doesn't end up coming over, and you're scrolling down your text list and you're like, you know what? You still want to come through? That's exactly what Josh McDaniels did to the Colts. Why are teams going to line up and do business with them? And that's also why I'll put the Colts as one of the honorable mentions. I'm not going to put them as one of the top 3 destinations for Carr, even though they may be for a lot of reasons. We'll get into it. I don't see the Colts wanting to do business with Josh McDaniels. So that's a team I'm disqualifying from the Derek Carr sweepstakes. And contrary to popular belief, there will be a very robust market for Derek Carr coming up very soon this offseason. Very soon. I imagine we will know who Derek Carr is playing for before the Super Bowl in February. Just like we knew when Alex Smith was traded here to Washington. Just like we knew Matthew Stafford was going to be a Ram in that inside deal that my Washington football team Commanders, they were in the mix for it too, but we always lose out. And honestly, people will throw our name in just to be a bargaining chip to get their deal done. But we'll get to Washington in a second. I'm going to get my boys in the conversation. The number one destination in my eyes for Derek Carr this offseason, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have been a mess this year. So I know a lot of you are probably shaking your head. Why the hell would the Tampa Bay Buccaneers be number one on the list for Derek Carr? There are a lot of reasons for it. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to win the NFC South this year. That division is absolute dog wash. That division is up for grabs. It is a three-way race with 2 weeks left in the season between the Tampa Bay Bucs, the Carolina Panthers, and the New Orleans Saints. It's a three-way race between them for that dog wash division. It's terrible. And why the Bucs, you say? They have weapons for days. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Julio Jones. They have a run game. Their line isn't great, but it's good enough. Brady isn't having the normal, typical Tom Brady season, and they have a top 10 defense in this league. So you look at the climate of the division. They have a good coaching staff. They have a great defense. He has weapons to throw the ball to. They could literally sign him, get the O-line straight, and boom, he's already on a team that should compete. And when I say it would be advantageous for Derek Carr to make a switch to the NFC, because if you watch football now and you look at that AFC playoff picture, it is littered with top talent, young, elite fucking quarterbacks that aren't going anywhere because all of the talent in the AFC is young. Look over there. Mahomes, Allen, Burrow, Herbert, Trevor's on the rise. Lamar Jackson's there. We thought Russell Wilson was going to be a player. We thought the AFC West was going to be the division of death. It turned out to be the division of death in a different way. Nathaniel Hackett's gone after one season. The death of Russell Wilson's career because he's finished. The death of Derek Carr's career in Las Vegas. There are two good teams in that division. It is the Chiefs and the Chargers. Derek Carr, you should get the fuck away from the AFC as soon as possible. And that's why the top two teams on my list are NFC teams. First, starting in the South with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Number two, I know a lot of our fans don't want to hear it because they feel like it's a lateral move from Commander Carson to Commander Carr. DC to DC. Number two on my list, the Washington Commanders. With new ownership likely coming in the next 6 to 8 months, we got a new owner coming in town. You could say Ron and his staff are lame duck coaching staff, or he's a lame duck coach at this point. But Ron, if he's one thing, he's a good salesman, and he's a great leader of men, and he's respected around league circles for whatever reason. He's a great guy, great leader of men. I think schematically, X's and O's, and as a coach, he leaves a lot to be desired, but he will be the coach of the team in 2023 and possibly beyond. Depending on how they do next year, Ron may think Derek Carr is exactly what this team needs. When I look at Derek Carr, he looks like the spitting image of what Ron Rivera dreams about as a quarterback. Because I don't think Ron dreams of having this godly, top-notch elite quarterback. Ron wants a guy like him. A guy that, a man of faith, a guy that leads the locker room, rah-rah, very team-oriented, teacher's pet type guy. Lunch pail type guy, blue collar type guy. Derek Carr fits the billing for what Ron Rivera wants in a quarterback. Very even, steady Eddie kind of guy. Consistently good, never great, never bad. Just consistently good. Other than the last couple years, Derek Carr has not had a turnover problem. As he's been asked to throw the ball more over these last couple years, he's had his worst couple. But Derek Carr is a pretty consistent guy. He's a pretty consistent guy. He's going to give you 4,000 yards and 23 to 27 touchdowns on a regular basis. He's a good top half of the league quarterback, and He is what he is. He sits in that class with like the Kirks of the world that aren't elite, but that like next tier of really good quarterbacks. Kirk's better, but Derek Carr is in that range of QB. Ron is looking for that. We have weapons here. Terry McLaurin is a superstar. Jahan Dotson is going to be a superstar. I can't even call him wide receiver 2, bro. He's co-wide receiver 1. Wide receiver 1B. Curtis Samuel's a dog. He has 1 year left on his contract. Brian Robinson, dog. We're going to be getting J.D. McKissick back next year, so that gives them the running back option. I think we're going to move on from Gibson in the offseason. Conversation for another day. We're talking about Derek Carr right now. I think the offense is 2 linemen and a tight end away. 2 linemen, a tight end, and a consistently decent quarterback away from being an actual contender in the NFC right now. You know what the Bucs and the Commanders both have? They're both going to be playoff teams in a conference that is scarce of elite quarterbacks. Unlike the AFC, the NFC is scarce of elite quarterbacks. The whole NFC is up for grabs. We have no idea who is going to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl this year, because anyone who gets hot at the right time can win. The best team in the conference, in my eyes, is the San Francisco 49ers, and they are starting Mr. Irrelevant. The last pick of the 2022 draft, Brock Purdy at quarterback. Derek Carr would be very advantageous to get his ass over to the NFC. And you might say, the NFC East is loaded. Why would he come to the NFC East? Because I can make an argument with the uneven and erratic play of Taylor Heineke and Carson Wentz. This team should have won 11 or 12 games this year. I look at both Giants games. I look at the Vikings game. I look at the Titans game. All those games should have been won by the Washington Commanders. We should be sitting at 11-3 right now. 11-4 right now. 11-4 with 2 games left. 11 wins is something I have never experienced as a Washington fan in my 31 years of life, because the last time we done it was the year I was born. 91, they won the Super Bowl. Haven't done it again since I've been on this earth and breathing. Derek Carr could be the consistently decent quarterback we need. We have a great defense, a great young defense that's still on the rise. We have offensive weapons for days, a run game, an offensive line that has glaring holes that need to be fixed but can be fixed. And you drop Derek Carr on this roster, it should be what we expected to get this year from Carson Wentz. I think Derek Carr is a better quarterback than Carson Wentz, but I don't think it's by very much. I think there's a good little chunk he's better than, but let's call it what it is. Derek Carr, we can't scoff at the acquisition of Derek Carr. This is someone who's going to throw for over 50,000 touchdowns in his career. This is a guy who started for the majority of 9 years in the Raiders organization and managed to somehow keep things afloat in Vegas, despite the fact that they've moved from a different city. They've had 6 head coaches in 9 years, 4 general managers in 9 years. He played with an interim coach last year, and they've had the 32nd ranked defense for the entirety. Well, not for the entirety. When you average out where the defense has been over the 9 years he played for Vegas, it's been 32nd ranked defense in the league. And there's going to be naysayers that say, but obviously he's available for a reason. Yes, he regressed this year. He's had a horrible December. He's in the low 50s completion percentage, 60 quarterback rating, 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. And they didn't play amazing teams in December. That's unacceptable, but he's still having a good season. I think with the numbers that he's put up in Vegas this year, we have 2 or 3 more wins with Derek Carr on the roster. But I think the Commanders are the number 2 best destination for him. I know a lot of our fans are going to probably shit their pants when they see this, because it's not a very overwhelming upgrade at the position, but it is an upgrade. But I could see it, and honestly, I know my team, and I feel like I have a good grasp on what Ron is. Ron's not going to knock our socks off and go acquire Rodgers or even old-ass Brady, or go trade up in the draft for a young, promising guy, especially considering that he may be out of a job after 2023. So I can very much see us going to get Derek Carr, or even something that would make the fans even more mad, run it back with Carson Wentz. But we're not going to sit here and talk about the Commanders for too long, because this is a video about the 3 destinations that I think Derek Carr would be best to go to. Number 3, The only AFC team on the list, honestly, I think this would be number one on the list if they weren't in the AFC. The New York Jets, the Robert Saleh-led New York Jets. Great coach, great young defense, great young weapons for days. They got the shot. They got the young LeFleur brother calling the plays over in New York. They're already on the cusp of the playoffs, despite the fact that they've played a quarterback-proof offense all year. The only time their offense has looked even adequate is when Mike White, the backup quarterback, comes in the game, because Zach Wilson is an utter disaster and a huge BUST bust, and not the bust that we see in Canton, Ohio. I'm talking about the type of bust that they make 30 for 30s on, because he's been an abstract failure as the quarterback for the New York Jets. This is a team that would be a picture perfect fit for a guy like Jimmy Garoppolo or Derek Carr. And it's really point blank. Their defense is great. They have weapons. Garrett Wilson's putting up veteran numbers in his rookie year. Baller. Elijah Moore, Corey Davis. They're getting good work from their tight ends, C.J. Uzomah and Tyler Conklin. Breece Hall was looking like the fucking Rookie of the Year candidate before he was injured this year. And Zonovan Wright, he's been balling since he's got in. They have a run game. They have a good O-line. They're going to probably lose Mekhi Becton, but he's not even something you need to factor in. The team, they would literally be an 11 or 12 win team with a quarterback right now, because they're probably going to win 8 or 9 without a quarterback. You drop Derek Carr on that team, that's a 12, 13 win team that's competing for the entire AFC. All they need is adequacy, because they're holding teams to 20 on a very consistent basis. Very consistent basis. They may have the offensive and defensive Rookie of the Year on the same team. Sauce Gardner on the defensive side, Garrett Wilson on the offensive side. I'm sure Derek Carr would love to play for that. I could see Jimmy G, because of his relationship and past experience with Robert Saleh being the guy there, but Jimmy G's coming off a serious injury. Derek Carr's not coming off an injury. And the only downside to that is, do you want to go to a division with Josh Allen and the Dolphins? Speaking of the Dolphins, that's all I got to say on the Jets. It's a fucking picture perfect team to go to, except for the fact of where they reside, division and conference-wise. You're in Josh Allen's division, and you're in the conference with Allen, Burrow, Mahomes, Jackson, Herbert, Trevor on the rise. Like, you know what I'm saying? Do you really want to go to that? And there was a team name I just said that I'm going to put as honorable mention number 1. That is the Miami Dolphins. Tua Tagovailoa may be retiring, because 3 serious concussions in one season sounds like a death wish, and honestly, he has more life things he needs to be concerned about than football. Remember how Jordan Reed's concussion stacked up here and he had to call it a career much earlier than people thought? Yeah, Tua may have to hang it up very soon. So the Dolphins are another team, but they fall under that same thing as the Jets. You're in Josh Allen's division, and you're in the conference of the young, godly quarterbacks. But you would have the fastest wide receiver duo we've seen in league history with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Offense for days, Mostert in them run game. The defense is good. Literally, Tua missing games and Tua having a bad stretch is the only reason why they may miss the playoffs, but they're still slated to make the playoffs this year. That keeps going. They keep the wheels churning, and they keep pushing, because Carr is better, but he's a similar type quarterback. Not the most explosive guy, but he can push the ball down the field, but that's not his game. Derek Carr would make sense for the Dolphins, and he would make sense for the Colts. Crackhead Irsay and the Indianapolis Colts, but the Colts are sitting with a top 5 pick. Honestly, they should just draft a guy. They should just draft a young quarterback, but Carr fits the billing. But how many times are they going to do the veteran quarterback route before they realize we should probably just draft another quarterback? Post Andrew Luck, they went into the last 6 seasons with a different quarterback. At some point, You just cut your losses and just draft you don't know if you're going to pick 5 again because you actually have a pretty good roster. It's just you're not getting anything from the quarterback position. And you've been injury riddled over the last couple of years. Been very unfortunate. Draft your quarterback. But I don't think Carr should stay in the AFC. If I was Carr's agent, I'd be pounding the table to take your best suitor who is willing to work with you for a contract that helps you, a very friendly Derek Carr contract in the NFC. Get the fuck out of the AFC fast, in a hurry. Get to the NFC as soon as possible, and you have a chance to actually take a team to the promised land. And if you take Washington to the next level, you will get a fucking statue built because we've been begging for the answer at the quarterback position for a very long time. And the last honorable mention would be the New York Giants. I think the Giants have a sweet spot for Daniel Jones, and they're going to give him a short-term 1 to 2 year contract. I also think the Giants are going to draft or move up for a young, toolsy, traded-up quarterback at some point. I think the match made in heaven for Brian Daboll and the Giants is Anthony Richardson. I think Brian Daboll did magic with Josh Allen. I'm looking at this quarterback in Florida who has the exact same profile as Josh Allen. He didn't produce shit in college. He only played he has not played that many snaps. He's very inexperienced. He's 21 years old, but he's 6'5", 230, runs like Lamar Jackson, has an arm like Mahomes and Allen. He's raw as hell. I think the Giants would be in a better spot to just draft Anthony Richardson and put him behind Jones for 2 years and unveil him in 2 years. You have an absolute fucking baller to pair with Saquon and hopefully some receivers because they have a very trash receiver core. And that's why if I was Derek Carr, I would look away from the New York Giants, even though they're a good team, a playoff team already. I think the Giants are going to stick with Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes for another year or two, and they're going to draft a guy to replace him. But Bucks, Commanders, Jets. I feel very confident that Derek Carr's end destination will be one of these 3 teams. He's going to be here in D.C., he's going to be in Tampa, or he's going to be a New York Jet. I think Tampa is probably the easiest spot because the factor that they could easily make a swap. If Carr wants to work with them for a swap, the guy McDaniels probably wants to replace Carr is the guy that the quarterbacks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, is going to be a free agent this offseason. Tom Brady. Y'all can make a swap. Send Carr to Tampa, send Brady, TB12 system to Vegas, my bad, and boom. But Carr should hardball it, and Carr should not do any favors to the Raiders, and he should say, no, fuck y'all, cut me, and let me pick my next destination. Let me go out there and explore free agency the correct way and not let it. And he has a no-trade clause. So, Derek Carr, I feel you. You're not the greatest quarterback in the world. You're not at all a bad or terrible quarterback. And to be perfectly honest, I'd take you here in D.C. I think you'd make a lot of sense for this team. And I think you're exactly what Ron's looking for. You may not be what all us fans are looking for a quarterback. You may be that steady Eddie, consistent guy that Washington needs to get us to be an 11 to 12 win team. But that's all I got for right now. For those who aren't subscribed to the channel, give me a like, comment, and subscribe. We're almost at 6,000 subscribers on the channel. I appreciate everybody that checks in with your boy. This is a Washington Commanders channel, but I'm looking to speak more vastly and broaden my horizons and speak more on a league-wide spectrum going forward. Until next time, hail to the Washington Commanders. Happy New Year. Deuces.